MODERNA'S bivalent vaccine approved by Britain. Drought endangers energy supplies in Europe, and BKSS 9.0 to be announced soon. Those are the headlines for tonight. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mohammad Yusuf, and this is TVS Nightline. We begin with our top story. MODERNA'S bivalent vaccine is now the first vaccine approved by the United Kingdom's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, or MHRA, with claims to have successfully eliminated both the original and the Omicron variant of COVID-19. The U.S. drug company has been supplying the vaccine to several countries, including the UK, as booster shots for adults. The approval, according to MHRA, was based on data collected from clinical trials that showed the shot had triggered a strong immune response against the aforementioned variants found in 2022 and in 2020. A statement by June Rain, the chief executive of the medicine regulator, said the bivalent vaccine gives an edge to the war against the disease as the virus continues to evolve. This discovery, however, does not dismiss the impact of other first-generation of COVID-19 vaccines used in the UK, she added, because it continues to provide protection and save lives. Several European countries, including Italy, France, and Spain, are facing severe droughts this summer, causing reduction in energy supplies from hydro, nuclear, and solar sources. It was reported that in the first 7 months of this year in Europe, electricity generated by hydropower has dropped by 20% from the same period last year, and the power from nuclear sources has been reduced by 12%.
除了缺少降水之外，已经持续了近1个月的高温天气，是目前波河流域旱情的另一个重要原因。受此影响，全长652公里的意大利第一大河波河水位已经比往年水位低了3.3米，流量减少了80%。有关部门监督节水措施落实情况，并优先保障农业灌溉用水。
Pardon for the technical difficulties. Now on to the next story. A new package of Bantuan Khas Sarawak Kusayang BKSS 9.0 is set to be announced by the Sarawak Premier, Datuk Patinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, in the near future. The package, among other things, will include discounts on monthly electricity and water bills.
Our Premier will announce a new BKSS for the cost of living for electricity and so on. The Premier will have new announcements soon, because under BKSS 8.0, they stop on the 30th of June. Yeah, I mean for electricity, for water bills, yeah. Oh, you realize it or not?
Because I pay more.
Straight away, you realize it, yeah? So you know our Premier, I discussed with our Premier already, and he will make new announcement.
However, Dr. Sim, who is also the Minister of Public Health, Housing and Local Government, did not comment further on the package. Under BKSS 8.0, the state government provided a monthly electricity bill discount of between 5 and 25% for domestic, commercial and industrial consumers until June this year. A total of 285.47 million ringgit was allocated for BKSS 8.0, with electricity bill discount being one of 7 measures to assist the people during the National Recovery Plan PPN Phase 4. The discount had benefited 647,000 households, as well as commercial and industrial consumers in Sarawak, with the total cost of electricity bill discount amounting to 166.8 million ringgit. Meanwhile, a discount of between 10 and 25% was also given on monthly water bills for the period of January to June this year through a subsidy of 24 million ringgit.
Now, Cebu town is expected to see massive transformation through the Bukit Aceh Master Development Plan, setting aside an allocation worth more than 1 billion ringgit. However, Deputy Premier Datuk Sri Dr. Sim Kui Hyun said the projects, which cover up to 500 acres of land, have proven to be quite challenging.
And it's challenging because this redevelopment in Cebu is not just redevelopment. You need to solve the water. You need to solve the water, and that's why we need all sorts of expertise. And then we are very hopeful that some of these places that we visit, they are very willing to help, even though we are from jungle or Borneo. So the whole development, those that cynical will say, how come not fast enough? If you're looking at 500 acres, you're building so many houses, new houses, and so on, and draining the drainage, it will take time through the process, but the commitment is there.
He was met by reporters after a work visit at the project sites in Cebu. In addition, he also inspected the upgrading works at Taman Selera Muhibah sites scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. All four of the mentioned projects cost a total of 1.6 million ringgit and are funded by the federal government under the purview of the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. Now, in the same development, Dr. Sim said the decision to appoint an international consultant for Cebu Urban Renew Plan was due to the massive scale of the project that requires crucial expertise from abroad, while dismissing the fact that the state government had overlooked the local consultants. At the same time, Dr. Sim reiterated that the cooperation of both parties is important to ensure the continuity of the projects.
We will get a local consultant to work with the international consultant because we want to be really something which is beneficial to solve the problem for Cebu. At the same time, we want of the international standard. A lot of people may say, "Oh, why do you go international?" It's very simple. If Dr. Sim in the 1990s don't go to Australia for training as cardiologist, who is going to train me in Sarawak? No cardiologist in Sarawak at that point in time. But now Dr. Sim has trained in Australia, come back to Sarawak. Now we can train the local Sarawakian.
Dr. Sim said many were cynical about the implementation of the project, questioning the need to engage international consultants. However, he said his party has identified the international consultant that will be appointed for the project, but refused to disclose further as it is still in the negotiation process. Now, 7 partygoers tested positive for drugs were arrested by the police after 2 raids conducted on 2 entertainment centers in Kuching, located at Jalan Ban Hok and Jalan Song Tian Chuk, respectively. They were among 43 patrons who were aged between 19 to 51 years old. Now, according to Kuching Police Chief Assistant Commissioner ACP Asman Baja, the suspects will be investigated under Section 15 in Bracket 1 and Bracket A of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. Now, the Sarawak government, through its Sarawak Disaster Management Committee, SDMC, has been commended for its superb management of the COVID-19 pandemic in the state. The National Security Council NSC Director General Dato' Rosie Muhammad Saad said Sarawak had done exemplary in rolling out its vaccination program, setting standards for other states in Malaysia.
He said this during a courtesy call on Deputy Premier Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Ambas, who is also the chairman of SDMC, at his office at the new Dun Complex today. He added that the NSC is very thankful of the full support and cooperation given by the state government and are certainly looking forward to bring the support and cooperation to an even greater height for the future. Rosie urged that the continuous strong ties and cooperation between the federal and state governments will augur very well for the safety of the people, economy, and the nation's security. These cooperation must complement each other in the greater good of our national interests.
Now, Sarawak is ever ready in hosting world-class sporting events. Deputy Minister of Youth, Sports and Entrepreneur Development, Datuk Gerald Rentap Jabu said, with the tournaments in place, they have the potential to attract athletes, sponsors and even tourists, both domestic and internationally.
Gerald, whose text speech was read by the Chief Executive Officer of Sarawak Sports Corporation, SSC, Morshidi Frederick, at the closing ceremony of the second Sarawak Short Course Sprint at Pandalela Rinong Aquatic Centre on Sunday.
Over the last 2 years, sporting events around the world have been postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. But as tournaments slowly start to return, we are just excited to open our doors for global sporting events. Sarawak has world-standard sporting venues and facilities, especially here in Kuching.
He added that Sarawak had previously hosted several international sports events, such as Spartan Race and Borneo Trail Classic.
Sarawak has seen the returning of some international sporting events, such as the Spartan Race Sarawak and the Borneo Trail Classic. Besides this, Sarawak will host the first ever Decafit event in Southeast Asia in November this year.
Approximately 20 teams participated in the second Sarawak Short Course Sprint event, including swimmers from Indonesia, Brunei, Sabah, and Peninsular Malaysia.
Coming up right after the break, economists predicts 2030 will be a challenging year for Malaysia and Walrus euthanized due to supposed public safety concerns. Right here on TVS Nightline. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Nightline. Now on to today's recap on today's topic on inflation. Malaysia's economy grew at the fastest rate in a year this year, fueled by a surge in consumption, underpinning the recovery of services and manufacturing, thus boosting the central bank's scope to focus on fighting inflation. Now, according to Bank Negara Malaysia, gross domestic product GDP expanded 8.9% in the April-June period in 2022 compared with the same period a year ago, beating the 7% median estimate in a Bloomberg survey. Meanwhile, output rose 3.5% from the first quarter against a median estimate of a 1% growth. Now, earlier today, we were joined by Sean Syed, a chief economist from GYIQI, on the effects of inflation on the country's economy. And here's a snippet from our conversation earlier.
So overall, I think Bank Nigara has got sufficient room, but we don't expect at GYIQI that Bank Nigara will go very aggressive in terms of rate hikes. They might increase by 25 basis points from here, where discount rate, the OPR rate is already at 2.25, but I don't see the discount rate touching 3% this year. The maximum they can go up to is 2.5. Even at 2.5, we expect that Bank Nigara will be able to tame price inflation under 3%, which is a good number to start with. I think overall the inflation numbers will remain subdued. And I think Bank Nigara has done a good job in the last 2-3 years, taking into account the economy has gone through COVID challenges, but Bank Nigara has maintained structural stability in ringgit, and overall monetary policy has remained pretty stable.
When asked whether Malaysia is heading towards recession, Sean dismissed the idea, adding that the GDP for the second quarter of the year proved otherwise. Nonetheless, he foresees that the year ahead will be a challenge towards the economy due to factors such as the rising geopolitical tension.
The technical definition of recession is when your GDP goes down, is negative for 2 consecutive quarters, that is recession. So first quarter, the GDP was 5%, the second quarter, 8.9%. So where is recession? I don't know. But the pragmatic definition of recession is when consumers don't spend, the businesses don't invest, the economy actually shrinks. You go to any mall in KL right now, whether it's KLCC or Pavilion or BSC, Vanutama, I think you can see the restaurant business, 80% are full. Restaurant business is like the pulse of the economy. Malaysia, as you know, ranked 27, 28 in the world in terms of energy consumption. So when you talk about recession at GYIQI, I can say in categorical terms that there won't be any recession in Malaysia. Premature to say what will happen in 2023, but obviously 2023 globally will be much tougher than 2022 due to geopolitical risk.
Malaysia's economy grew at the fastest rate in a year. The decision to lift the current chicken export ban and the setting of new ceiling prices for chicken and eggs will only be finalized after the relevant ministries and agencies submit detailed reports on the status of the supply and demand to the Special Task Force Against Inflation. Its chairman, Tan Sri Anwar Musa, said those responsible, which include the Veterinary Services Department (DVS) and the Department of Statistics Malaysia (DOSM), are given a week to present their findings to the committee. He asked all parties to be patient and allow the task force to assess the findings to ensure everything is under control, despite many requests from poultry breeders for the ban be lifted, following high demand from Singapore. Anwar said the new price of chickens and eggs after August 31st will include input from the DVS and DOSM, including the availability of imported chicken produced locally, and the quantum of chicken that could be re-exported. He revealed that DOSM has been tasked with making a computation based on field studies regarding the actual production costs for every chicken produced in the country. The DVS, meanwhile, was asked to determine the relationship between the supply of imported chicken kept as buffer stocks, and imported chicken in the market. On July 29th, Agriculture and Food Industry Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ronald Kiandi was reported to have said that the government will review the ceiling retail price of standard chickens and the chicken export ban following the end of the implementation of the ceiling price of chicken on August 31st. The Health White Paper is critical and will be the starting point of the country's health reform journey. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the opinions of various stakeholders have been consistently sought and that the cooperation of the private sector and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in working with the government is critical to ensuring the success of the health system reform. The purpose of the white paper, he noted, is to propose the significant changes needed to ensure that Malaysia's health system can anticipate and fulfill the nation's evolving health needs. In his message for the Health Policy Summit 2022, Dr. Nur Hisham shared a glimpse of the solutions that the health fraternity can adopt to strengthen Malaysia's health system resilience through innovation, equity, and sustainability. He highlighted that partnerships from all stakeholders are pivotal in ensuring health system resilience and cited examples in the recent COVID-19 pandemic where everyone came together in a concerted effort. Dr. Nur Hisham said during the pandemic, Malaysia also experienced a lot of services backlog for non-COVID-19 cases, and special regulatory exemptions were also made to allow doctors, including surgeons, to practice in facilities other than their regular places. Adding to that, he said that partnerships should also be established at the regional and international levels, such as through the ASEAN Public Health Emergency Coordination System, or APEX, to ensure better coordination, inclusiveness, and accountability while improving regions' health systems' resilience. Welcome back. Now, several European countries, including Italy, France, and Spain, are facing severe droughts this summer, causing reduction in energy supplies from hydro, nuclear, and solar sources. It was reported that in the first 7 months this year in Europe, electricity generated by hydropower has dropped by 20% from the same period last year, and the power from nuclear sources has been reduced by 12%. Meanwhile, high temperatures across Europe have decreased the depth of water in rivers and reservoirs, affecting the generation of energy through hydro facilities. In Italy, the hydropower, accounting for 20% of the country's total electricity production, dropped by 40% in the past 12 months. In Spain, the electricity generated by moving water has also gone down by 44%. Analysts from Restart Energy said that although hydropower can be volatile, A 40% drop is still absolutely extreme. The heat wave is also affecting nuclear power plants, as the river water used to cool nuclear reactors is too hot, which limits nuclear power generation in France. As such, the high temperature is also hitting power output from solar sources, as the technology in solar panels works less well in high temperatures, and the exposure to the big sun shortens the service life of solar panels. On to our final story of the night. Norwegian authorities on Sunday put down a 600-kilogram walrus in a highly controversial move that sparked public outcry. Freya, a sunbathing loving female walrus, became a popular attraction among visitors to Norway's shores, was humanly euthanized due to safety concerns posed to visitors who flock to watch her. Named after the Norse goddess of beauty and love, Freya had been a frequent sighting in Oslo Fjord. The walrus had become stressed by human visitors who constantly gathered too close to watch her sunbathe and take pictures. The authorities had warned the public to avoid the walrus several times. However, public did not comply with the warnings. Officials grew concerned she may become aggressive or territorial and injure an onlooker. In one incident, police had to cordon off a bathing area after the walrus chased a woman into the water. Aware of the backlash the decision may cause, the authorities said human life and safety must take precedence. According to Norway's Director General of Fisheries, Frank Bake Jensen, the decision to euthanize the walrus was made based on an overall assessment of the continued threat to human safety, adding that the animal's welfare could not be ensured through any means available. Freya became well known after clambering on boats to sunbathe and sometimes sinking them due to her weight. And while walruses may live up to 40 years, Freya was estimated to be just 5 years old. Now, one of the most iconic figures in journalism, Dato Harjit Singh Hulon, will be taking center stage tomorrow on Sejahtera Asia, where he will be sharing his experience as a veteran in the industry while comparing the differences between how the news was presented back then to recent times. 7:45 a.m. only on Astro TBS Channel 122 and My Freeview. See the world closer with TBS as we bring you the latest news updates, both locally and internationally, just a click away by heading on to our website at www.tvstv.my or by following us on our social media platforms. And that's all the time we have for TVS Nightline. Once again, I'm Muhammad Yusuf. Thank you for watching and good night.